I never knew the women I loved would fight back in the most unbelievable way. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced around me like the chaos brewing in my heart. Harriet stood in the kitchen, her back to me, her fingers trembling as they brushed over the sharp edge of the knife. A simple dinner gone awry. I thought she was just slicing vegetables, but in that moment, I realized she was carving out a piece of her sanity. "Why can't you see it?" she whispered, her voice barely a breath. I could hear the desperation coating her words, thick and sticky. "Why can't you see how it all connects?" The air felt electric, charged with tension. My heart raced, each beat pounding in my ears. Across the room, my sister Rose watched us, her eyes wide, glistening with a mixture of fear and excitement. She never was one to back away from drama. But this was no soap opera. This was real. Flashbacks hit me like a freight train. Our mother's laughter echoing through the house, moments before her world crumbled under the weight of secrets. I thought we had moved past it, thought we could build a new life together, but now I saw that old traumas had laid dormant, ready to explode. Just tell me." I choked out, my chest tight. "What are you so afraid of?" Harriet turned slowly, her eyes glistening like dark storm clouds ready to burst. "Everything," she said, a single tear escaping down her cheek. "Everything is connected, and it's all going to come crashing down. You think we're safe? You think these walls protect us?" Suddenly, I heard the doors slam. It shook my insides. My heart dropped as I turned to see Rose had dashed outside into the night. The panic rose higher. "Rose!" I called, my voice almost breaking. But she was gone. Just like that, swallowed by the darkness. "What have you done?" I shouted at Harriet, my pulse roaring in my ears. Harriet stepped closer, her hands shaking, her breath catching. "I had to tell you. There are things happening, things that involve her. They're going to make their move." My mind reeled as I searched for clarity. A sense of dread swirled around me, tightening like a noose. "Who? What do you mean?" It was hard to breathe, heavy silence settling between us, smothering me. But she didn't answer. Instead, she looked away, her gaze piercing the walls, like she was searching for something behind them. I could hear the creaking of the floorboards beneath my feet, the house itself holding its breath. Then I felt it. A chill creeping down my spine. A whisper of danger lurking outside our bubble of normalcy. I rushed to the window, glancing into the street, and my breath hitched. A figure stood there, cloaked in shadow, staring directly at us. "Who is that?" I cursed under my breath, trembling hands clenching the window frame. But there was no answer. Only the sound of my heart thundering, echoing in the silence. What had we awakened? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The chill intensified, wrapping around me like a shroud as I peered deeper into the night. The figure, unchanged and unwavering, seemed to belong to the very shadows that danced along the walls of my memory. My blood ran cold, a fear unlike any I had known. Everything within me screamed to flee, to hide, but all I could do was stand rooted in place as I felt Harriet's presence behind me, a weighty reminder of the chaos I had just witnessed. "What do we do?" My voice trembled as I turned to her, hoping for the steadiness that had once seemed so unshakable. Now, there was a flicker of vulnerability in her dark eyes that sent my mind hurtling into dark territories. "You need to call Rose," she said, urgency etching the lines on her face. "She could be in danger. She can't be out there alone." The thought of Rose wandering in the dark, the chilling air pressing against her skin, made my stomach churn. She ran out in a panic, "Harriet, how am I supposed to muster the strength to find her when we're on the brink of something terrible?" My voice cracked, breaking against the weight of reality. Harriet reached for my hand, her touch sparking a brief moment of warmth amidst the cold dread enveloping us. "We have to help her. We owe her that much," she insisted, lifting my chin until our eyes met. In that moment, I saw the woman I fell in love with, a strong-willed fighter who would not back down from a challenge. I nodded, pulling my phone from my pocket, but before I could press the buttons, a knock echoed from the door, sharp and commanding. "Who is it?" Harriet called out, large beads of sweat forming on her brow. There was no response, just a soft rustling outside, as if the atmosphere thickened with secrecy. "We shouldn't open it," I said, panic rising like bile in my throat, but Harriet didn't flinch. Instead, she moved toward the door, drawing the courage I wished I could borrow from her veins. "We need to know what they want. Please think this through," I urged, heart racing as visions of what lay beyond flooded my mind. Would it be friends, or an imminent threat? With a resolute breath, Harriet unlatched the door, its hinges creaking ominously. As it swung open, the flickering streetlights revealed a figure wrapped in an old coat, a hood pulled down low over their face. The evening gust swept through, carrying a familiar scent lingering from childhood apple pie mixed with autumn leaves. It was jarring yet comforting in its familiarity. "Maggie?" I whispered, astonished to find my long-lost friend standing at our doorstep after all these years. The figure nodded, revealing tear-streaked cheeks under the hood. "I'm so sorry for coming at such a delicate time," she said, her voice trembling with urgency. "But I heard about everything. The shadows, they're moving closer. You need to come with Menno." Harriet instinctively stepped back, the door now a barrier between our lives as they were, and the impending chaos threatening to consume us. "What do you mean? What shadows? I can't explain everything here. Just trust me, please," Maggie begged, eyes darting around as if sensing the weight of unseen eyes watching us. "Rose is in real danger, and it's connected to all of this." She gestured vaguely between us, as if the very air held secrets waiting to be unveiled. I was torn, caught between the need to protect Rose and the overwhelming knot of fear pulling me back. Harriet shifted beside me, uncertainty clouding her features. "What if it's a trap?" "It might be," Maggie acknowledged, "but staying here could mean losing everything. You might not have time to decide." As words sunk in, a singular thought flashed through my mind. What if we waited too long? What if Rose needed help right now? In an act of impulsiveness I hadn't recognized in myself for a long time, I stepped forward. "We have to go. I can't lose anyone else I love," I stated, the conviction flowing through me now, pushing out fear. Harriet hesitated, her eyes searching mine as if looking for answers I couldn't provide. "Are you sure?" she asked. I saw the flicker of something in her gaze, hope intertwined with fear. I took a deep breath, perceiving the shadows lurking just out of reach, darkening the world I knew. "I can't lose anyone. If you come with me, I promise we'll find Rose together." As the decision hung in the air, a distant siren howling through the night chased away the seconds that felt stretched beyond comprehension. Harriet's face softened, determination igniting within her. "Then let's go find her." With trembling hands, I reached for Maggie, the three of us stepping into the misty night, unaware of the true danger that awaited us. The moon loomed above, casting an eerie glow that illuminated our path, while shadows stretched and wrapped around us like a living entity. Just as we turned the corner down the street, a piercing scream tore through the quiet night, chilling me to the bone. "Rose!" My heart plummeted, the sharp fear cutting straight through to the core of my being. We bolted toward the sound, a throbbing pulse of urgency driving my legs forward. I could feel time slipping away, each moment stretched thin until it became palpable and vibrating with dread. As we rounded the next corner, I froze. There, in the moonlight, stood Rose, her expression twisted in terror, and beside her, a figure cloaked in darkness, features obscured, but their eyes gleaming with malice locked onto ours. The walls we thought we had fortified crumbled before us, revealing a darker reality, and I knew in that chilling silence that everything I feared had only just begun. Panic surged through me, a tidal wave of dread as the figure beside Rose lifted a hand, the alluring rhythm of its movements both unnerving and hypnotic. A mix of primal fear and something deeper clawed at my insides. I could feel Harriet's trembling beside me, caught in the dual currents of fight-or-flight logic, her eyes wide with a fear mirrored in my own. "Rose, get back!" I shouted, my voice trembling as I took a step forward, instinctively urging Harriet to do the same. But the figure's laughter echoed through the stillness, a haunting sound that filled my chest with ice. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," it purred, the voice like silk, smooth but laced with danger. It took another step toward Rose, who was paralyzed, rooted to the ground by the terror radiating from the encroaching darkness. "Let her go." Harriet's shout was fierce, an ember of determination contrasting the cold dread wrapping around me. The figure halted, tilting its head, and for the briefest second, I could glimpse something almost human behind the depth of its shadowy facade, a flicker of recognition, perhaps. "You don't understand, do you?" it said, an inexplicable yet disconcerting sorrow dripping from each word. "Maggie," I urged, still struggling with the deep fear clutching my heart. "What is this? Who is this?" With urgency etched into her features, Maggie stepped ahead of us, a protective barrier against the darkness threatening to envelop Rose. "Stay back," she commanded, her voice firm, as she reached for something hidden within her coat. My heart raced. Was she armed, or was she about to reveal something far more dangerous? The entity's gaze darted between us and Rose, and then, curiously, it scrutinized Maggie. "You shine brighter than before, old friend," it said wistfully, recognition shimmering through the malevolence. "Tell me, do you still protect the ones you love even when it threatens your own existence?" Harriet's grip tightened on my arm, anxiety swirling like a storm. "Who are you? What do you want?" Harriet's voice tremored, but even in her resolve, I saw the flicker of defiance battling her fear. The shadow stepped closer to Rose, its demeanor shifting as it began to speak again, softer this time. "She is the key," it murmured, an echo in the wind that sent ice through my veins. "Only she can awaken the truth." "Awaken what?" "Rose doesn't know anything. She's just a girl, just a friend," I yelled, rage and confusion blending in a cocktail of emotions. "But she is so much more than that, isn't she?" the figure retorted sharply, its gaze boring into mine, as if stripping away the layers of my soul. "Every name you whispered into the night, and every flame you kindled within your heart has led to this moment. I felt the ground shifting beneath my feet, the truths I clung to cracking under the weight of something unfathomable. "What do you mean?" I gasped, grasping for clarity in the haze. Maggie finally produced an old locket, the silver glint catching the moonlight, revealing intricate engravings, remnants from a time long past. "This belonged to you," she said, her voice softer now as she turned to me. "It's the last link to your past, and it holds the key to saving Rose." "Stop! You're scaring her." Harriet's shout shattered the tension, pulling me back into the throes of the present. The shadow twisted, a shiver of malevolence turning palpable as it advanced toward Rose, eyes gleaming with something vile. "What will you sacrifice to save her?" it asked, baiting us into a dark and dangerous game. Torn between the horrifying possibility of losing Rose and the fragile hope that flickered within me, I struggled for an answer. "I'll do anything," I declared, heart racing as each beat echoed the urgency of the moment. Just let her go. An unsettling silence enveloped us, the air thick with the weight of promises yet to unfold, every one of us caught in the web of choices we would soon have to make. The figure seemed to ponder my words for a daunting moment, the shadows thickening around it like an engulfing tide. Very well, it said at last, stepping back, allowing Rose a breath, a moment of reprieve. But know this, sacrifices demand a toll, an exchange, and the line between light and shadow grows thin when it involves those you love the most. As the figure melted back into darkness, I turned to Rose. "Are you okay?" I whispered urgently, but within me was a gnawing realization: what choice would we have to make to save her? In that instant, Rose's eyes met mine, and something shifted, an understanding passing between us, words unspoken but felt. Just then, the ground beneath us quaked, fractures spreading outwards like the fingers of fate. Terror cracked through our collective resolve, and as I reached for Rose, ready to pull her close, another piercing scream echoed through the night. Not Rose, but Maggie. I whirled at the sound, my heart leaping into my throat as I saw her figure collapse to the ground, clutching her midsection. In the chaos of the moment, fate thrust upon us a new challenge, one I hadn't anticipated as I fought against the rising tide of fear threatening to drown us all. Would I lose her too? Would anyone be left to battle the darkness that threatened to consume us whole? As Maggie's body lay trembling with the echoes of unknown curses, I braced myself for the shadows that would rise before me, unyielding in their pursuit. The tremor of dread wrapped around me like a vice as I rushed to Maggie's side, heart pounding like a war drum against my ribs. "Maggie! What's happening?" Desperation clawed at my throat, and I knelt beside her, fingers trembling as I hesitated to touch her, fearful that whatever affliction had struck her could seep into me too. "Maggie!" Harriet's voice cracked, panic threading through her tone as she reached for her sister. I felt the weight of heavy inevitability settle around us, a hushed whisper of the consequences cascading in the wake of our actions. "Don't touch her!" Maggie gasped, her voice a fragile thread weaving through the night. It's a mark. It's taken hold of me." She rocked slightly, anguish etched across her features, the sound of her breath jagged and uneven. "What mark?" I felt the knot of confusion tightening in my stomach. "What do we do?" A faint flicker of recognition crossed Maggie's once stable eyes, a fleeting glimmer amidst the storm of suffering that enveloped her. "The shadow, it's taken something from me. Something it needs. It will grow stronger unless we find the key." Her voice softened, desperation woven with a heart-wrenching determination. "You have to get it from Rose." My heart sank at her words, an icy tendril wrapping around my insides. But how could she trust her? "She has to remember," Maggie responded, every syllable heavy with a weight we didn't yet comprehend. "You are all part of this. You have to help her understand." Harriet took my hand, her grip fierce, connecting us like a lifeline in this chaos. "What if we can't? What if we can't save you or Rose?" Her eyes glistened with unspilled tears, her vulnerability a mirror reflecting the weight of my own fear. "Then we fight together." Maggie's words were imbued with a strength I wished I could absorb, a tethering force amidst the surreal dark surrounding us. "I will not let it take any more." But in that instant, another wave of agonizing energy pulsed through her, manifesting as a violent spasm that distorted her face. I gripped her hand tightly, whispers of reassurance tumbling from my lips, desperate to anchor her spirit. "We're right here, Maggie. You're not alone." Yet, with every labored breath she took, the shadows in the periphery danced more wildly, whispering promises of destruction. I gazed around, the world slipping from shadows into stark contrasts, an inexplicable pull urging me toward Rose. "Stay with her," I urged Harriet as I pulled away, my heart aching at the thought of leaving them. "He'll find a way to reach Rose. I swear he'll make her understand." "Be careful," Harriet called out, fear threading her voice. "We don't know what's happening." With every step, I felt the pull of destiny like a magnet, drawing me toward Rose. Her figure stood illuminated under the moonlight, still haunted and seemingly far away, lost to the trauma that surrounded her like a storm. Rose, I breathed, desperation clawing at my throat as I reached for her, needing to tear down the walls of confusion that had closed her off. But she flinched, eyes wide with a mix of residual fear and fading recognition. "What do you want?" she whispered, her voice trembling, caught somewhere between wanting to run and the instinct to trust. "Please, you need to remember." "You're the key," I implored, my heart hammering wildly. "Maggie's hurt. The shadows said you have to awaken the truth." A flicker of pain crossed her features, squeezing my heart tight. "What truth? I don't know anything. I'm just me." "Just you?" "No, Rose. You're so much more than that." Every word felt like a lifeline thrown out amidst the waves, desperate for her to grasp onto something real. "You hold the light that can fight the darkness coming for us." Tears welled in her eyes, reflecting something deeper, a labyrinth of emotions tangled within her. I could almost feel the magnetic pull drawing us closer, a resolve brewing in her gaze. "I don't know what you mean, but I want to help," she finally whispered, a fragile promise, yet still veiled in uncertainty. But even as I clung to that flicker of hope, the shadows surged forward, a tide rising with a cataclysmic roar. The ground shook violently, and the world around us began to blur, shadows coiling tightly around us, as though the very fabric of reality was unraveling. "Run!" I yelled, clawing at her hand to pull her away, but the shadows fought against us, unyielding in their hunger. The air thickened around us, and I felt something pulling Rose back, a disquieting force that threatened to tear us apart. "Maggie!" I shouted back, heart racing, desperate to fight against the encroaching dark pulling her deeper into the abyss. "We need you." But deep within, I felt the truth, a gut-wrenching realization that I had underestimated this shadowy force, and it intended to collect what it desired at any cost. As I turned to Rose, her face lined with fear, determination ignited in her gaze. "What if I am the truth?" she breathed, and before I could respond, an inexplicable radiance began to fill the night, the pulsing darkness quaking in response. But before I could comprehend what she was unleashing, the ground bucked violently again beneath us, and I felt the breath leave my lungs as the shadows converged, joining us in a suffocating shroud, drawing us closer to the heart of the dark, dire fate that awaited. And as the shadows throbbed, heralding the arrival of something more brutal than we could prepare for, I couldn't shake the fear that the battle for our lives was only just beginning. The air grew heavy, thick with foreboding as the shadows wrapped around us, an oppressive force that filled the void left by our doubts. Rose's bright eyes held onto mine, a flicker of defiance igniting within her even as the darkness threatened to snuff it out. I could feel the tremor of her fear, reflected in the quaking of my own heart. "Stay close to me," I urged, backing away slowly, my feet shuffling over the soil that felt alive beneath us, a pulse of life wrapped in malevolence. "We can't let it take what is not theirs." Rose nodded, though uncertainty played across her features like a desperate dance. The shadows seemed to weave together, an almost sentient tapestry of dread drawing nearer, hunger manifesting in a murmur that wrapped around our hearts. My instincts flared, and adrenaline surged through my veins. I felt trapped between the urge to protect her and the settling dread that our collective strength might not be enough. "We need to find Maggie," Rose exclaimed, and in her voice there was a steely determination that cut through the haze, forging a lifeline amidst the chaos. "If she's truly the one who can fight this, we can't abandon her." "No." I shook my head, my panic igniting at the thought of her suffering alone. "She's weak in this moment. She needs us to rally, but we can't risk the shadows taking you too." Just then, beneath the surface tide of darkness, I heard a whisper, one that resonated with Maggie's earlier words. "Find the key," it rasped, the chill of its breath wrapping around me, a sadistic lullaby. Maggie said something about a key, I murmured, feeling the words reverberate in my mind. It has to be a part of the shadow, something hidden in the past we must uncover. If we can find it, maybe we can save her, and maybe, just maybe, break free from this. Rose's eyes narrowed, and in the dim light, I could just make out a spark of recognition flickering like a candle threatened by the wind. But how do we find a key that we've never seen? We remember, I insisted, and suddenly, a bitter nostalgia washed over me. Moments with Maggie, times when the three of us had danced around the campfire under starlit skies, laughter ringing bright against darkened nights. Think of the stories, the conversations. She must have spoken about something that could help us fight this. And together, we began to sift through the remnants of our past, piecing together fragments of our shared history, our laughter mingling with fear as we recounted everything we could. Each memory seemed to send tremors through the shadows, as if the very act of remembrance began to chip away at their hold. Suddenly, Rose gasped, pulling me back from the brink of uncertainty. The old library. We spent hours there, rifling through those dusty books. Maybe Maggie found something. With urgency igniting beneath our resolve, we sprinted towards the library nestled among the trees, its grand facade loomingly visible against the swirling shadows. The ground beneath felt charged, alive with flickers of energy that urged us onward. As we burst through the doors, a ghostly chill rested upon us, the cobwebbed room spilling darkness like a grieving phantom. Shelves filled with fragile tomes reached toward the ceiling, and even faint trails of moonlight pierced the gloom, weaving patterns of silver across the floor. Where do we start? I whispered, a sense of hopelessness threatening to curl around my heart once again. Maybe the books on ethnography, Rose suggested, her voice now steady, an uncanny calmness settling in her resolve. If there's something in our past related to the shadow, something Maggie was exploring, it might be there. Together we began to scour the shelves, our fingers trailing across worn spines, and the thick, musty air wrapping around us like a shroud. The urgency pulsated through me. Time was slipping away, fate poised just outside the threshold, eager to draw its collective breath and strike. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the library, rattling the foundations, sending a flurry of dust sweeping across the floor. We both spun around, hearts racing. Shadows converging at the edge of the room, angered by our intrusion. "Stay back!" Rose shouted, but even as she did, an overpowering force surged forward, a wave of darkness propelled by unseen hands. I grabbed her arm, adrenaline pumping through my veins as we stumbled backward, terror and determination locking our gazes. We're worth saving. We'll find the truth. But in that moment, the shadows lunged for us with tenacious force, the coldness wrapping around our bodies, threatening to pull us into an abyss from which there would be no return. And just when I thought all was lost, the ground beneath us trembled with an eruption of light and inconceivable brilliance bursting forth as a book fell from the shelf, landing with a show-stopping thud at our feet. The shadows recoiled, hissing at the illumination, and as I reached down to open the book, a singular word caught my eye, glowing and shimmering on the page: awakening. But as I looked back up at Rose, my heart stilled. The shadows were no longer afraid. They had shifted, taking form around her, consolidating into a figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes blazing with malicious intent. It was her. It was Rose's shadow, a manifestation of her fears and past secrets poised to take hold. And I knew, in that moment, that the greatest fight awaited us just beyond the threshold of that flickering light, branching paths of the heart intertwined with a shadow that threatened to consume everything. Nothing would be as it seemed. The library was suffocating in its silence, the stillness punctuated only by the soft, rhythmic pounding of my heart. I glanced at the figure my mind had conjured from the darkness, the distorted silhouette of Rose's shadow standing in stark contrast to the swirling light emanating from the open book at my feet. The eyes, that fierce, familiar spark, did nothing to ease my trepidation. They held a truth sewn into their depths, that I was terrified to unravel. "Rose!" I shouted, taking a step towards her, my voice shaky but resolute. "Don't let it take you. You're stronger than this." Yet even as I pleaded with her, the shadows slowly reached out, curling tendrils that coiled around Rose's legs like creeping vines. It was a grotesque mimicry of a loving embrace, whispering dark secrets that stirred more than just her fears, but also the hidden desires she had long suppressed. "You can't run from me," it hissed, the voice eerily familiar, a haunting echo of Rose's own, shrouded in darkness and despair. "I am everything you hide from. Every doubt, every failure, and every choice you wish you could take back. No. I caught her gaze, desperately willing her to see that this was not her, but an enemy born of trauma, fabrication of pain made manifest. "You are more than your scars, Rose. We can fight this together." Rose's eyes flickered between clarity and confusion. "I'm scared. I don't know how to fight." But the shadow pressed closer, the edges of its form crackling with a cold fury that sent shivers racing down my spine. "You cannot save her," it taunted, its voice a contemptuous snarl. "To save yourself, you must erase her." I could see the struggle in Rose. The war within her was tangible, a visceral pull between the light of her resolve and the dark lure of the past. Every inch of me screamed to push against the shadow's grip, to reach through the tether, and find the remnants of my Rose buried beneath the weight of anxiety and regret. "Listen. Listen to me, Rose." My voice broke through the cacophony, fervent and defiant. "This isn't you. You have the power to Chesito embrace who you are and who you've become. Remember all the moments we shared. Embrace our laughter, our dreams, the love that binds us." The shadow recoiled momentarily, as if my words were an electric surge, registering on its malevolent core. Rose's face contorted in a fierce battle, her humanity flickering through like a candle in a tempest. And in that fleeting moment, the light from the book pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, drawing the shadow's concentrated ire. "Foolish boy," it hissed, slashing through the air before turning its simmering rage back upon Rose. "He cannot keep you safe. He will only lead you into darkness." I stepped forward, poised to bridge the gap between us, and when my hand reached out to Rose, something extraordinary happened. There was a tingling warmth, a tether created not by fear, but by the unwavering bond we shared, the countless memories flooding through the fabric of my mind. Each moment of laughter, joy, and shared warmth stitched a patchwork of light that fought against the encroaching darkness. "Remember that time by the river?" I pressed, knowing that accessing shared memory could anchor her. "We tossed stones until sunset, trying to skip them across the water? You laughed so hard, you almost fell in. You're not just light, Rose. You're fire. You will never be extinguished." With every word, I felt the grip of the shadow falter, hesitance creeping into its form. But it was only temporary. "You are weak. All of you are weak," it screeched, a snarl that reverberated off the dusty book spines. "Together, we are anything but weak," Rose said, her voice surging as she began to lift her chin defiantly, pushing against the malevolence that sought to drown her spirit. "You do not own me. You are only a shadow, a remnant of pain, and I am so much more." With that declaration, the bond between us strengthened like a blazing thread, illuminating the library in golden effulgence. The shadows hissed and writhed violently, the rage of betrayal charged her against the purity of her newfound resilience. Then, in an unexpected twist, the book I had opened began to flicker even stronger, words swirling into clarity across the page. Awakening the key, my mind raced, piecing together the urgency of that profound revelation amidst the turmoil. This was more than just our fight. It was about shedding identities forged through pain, awakening the strength that came from acceptance and love. Suddenly, the books around us trembled in response, the shadows recoiling in fear, and like an unseen tide pulling back, they retreated, revealing doorways into memories scattered throughout the library, each one radiating with warmth and potential. "Rose, we have to find the key," I urged, the adrenaline pumping as the dark figure bellowed, flailing as if caught in invisible chains, faded into the depths of the library shadows. It must be here, but before she could respond, a deafening crash echoed from beyond the library walls, shaking the very foundations. The reverberation sent a shock wave of panic coursing through me, an omen that our time was running thin, and just as I spun around, a bone-chilling laugh erupted from the depths of that darkness, accompanied by the emergence of a second shadow, this one more fierce and menacing, shaped by memories I had long sought to forget. "You think you can save her?" it called out to me, a twisted mimicry of my own voice surging forth from the void. "I will show you how deep the darkness runs." My breath caught in my throat, realization crashing over me like a storm. This was more than our fight against shadows. It was the reckoning of my own fears, truths I had tucked away, and the reckoning had only just begun. Behind me, Rose took a step closer, resolute yet terrified, but I could feel the fraying edge between us, the chasm of fear we both must cross together, or risk losing everything, including each other. "Whatever comes, we face it together," I vowed, though uncertainty dripped heavy on my tongue. But in that moment, I saw her spirit rekindle, stoic against the uprising of shadows that threatened our resolve, waiting for my next move, our next step into the unknown. Yet even as we braced for the fight ahead, the pervasive uncertainty hung thick in the air. Would our shared light be enough to break through the gathering storm? Or had we merely awakened a darkness that would consume us both? The tremors in the foundation of the library rattled my bones, an ominous prelude to the chaos that unfurled. The air grew thick with fear, but as Rose stood beside me, there was an undeniable flicker of strength in our union. Our hearts beat synchronously against the mounting dread, a reminder of the bond that no shadow could easily sever. Then, from the depths of that swirling darkness, the sinister second shadow began to shape itself, resembling a monstrous caricature of my own silhouette. An icy sweat gathered on my brow as I recognized the features twisting into a grotesque semblance of my face, its eyes glinting with the contempt I had often felt towards myself. "Look at you, always eager to rescue someone else. How pathetic. You can barely save yourself," it hissed, seeping into my mind like a noxious vapor. I gritted my teeth, the taste of despair bitter on my tongue. "You're not me. You're a reflection of my worst fears, my failures, my inadequacies. But I won't let you define who I am." The shaking in my voice felt like a betrayal. Self-doubt gnawed at my resolve. But just as quickly, Rose placed a steadying hand on my shoulder, her warmth seeping through to blanket my insecurities. "You are so much more than your fear," she whispered softly, grounding me like an anchor amidst the storm. "We both are." Her courage bolstered my trembling spirit, and I clung to that flicker of shared hope. I turned back towards the shadows, channeling the defiance I found in Rose. "If we have to fight our shadows, we'll do it together, no matter what demons lie in wait." We face each of them, side by side. The sinister echo laughed hollowly. "You think unity will save you? You don't even know how deep your darkness runs." The words clawed at me, stripping away the layers of confidence with each syllable, until only raw vulnerability remained. Yet, more than fear, I felt an undeniable yearning to protect Rose, not just from the shadow, but from the pain that resonated deep within her soul. I couldn't let the memories of regret bind her to this darkness. "In every reflection, there's a chance for redemption," I called out, intentionally making the focus shift back to her. "This isn't just a fight for us. It's for every moment we've cherished, our laughter, our dreams." Rose stepped towards the book, golden light swirling around her form, illuminating her in an ethereal cocoon as if the universe itself conspired to protect her. "Your coercion means nothing," the shadow spat as it dissolved into tendrils of smoke, slinking back only to retreat into the lesser-known corners of the library. "Face what truly lies before you." Then I remembered. The last few pages of the book held messages woven in words that shimmered with newfound promise. The key to awakening is not just in facing the darkness, it's in forgiving ourselves. I shared those words with Rose, each syllable dripping with the weight of our combined histories and burdens. But a subtle tremor in the air hinted at beginnings unseen. Something stirred, a flicker igniting between us, intertwining our fates deeper than I realized. I whispered to her, "We need to unlock the doorways, and find the strength to move forward." Yet as we turned back to the book, another chill swept over us. A visceral and a profoundly visceral and graphic image burst into clarity within the depths of my mind. I saw Rose standing at the receiving edge of blazing flames, shrieking against the consuming heat, a snapshot of pure anguish locked in time. Before I could grasp its significance, the vision erupted like a thunderclap, slamming the reality of it straight into my heart. "Rose!" I gasped, panic rising like bile in my throat. We can't. This can't be what we're meant for." My breath was ragged as the chilling dread swept into the room like a cold wave, forcing air from my lungs. But she remained unfazed, her presence a calm oasis amidst the chaotic storm. "It's a part of me. But it doesn't have to define me." "You don't have to let it define you either," she said softly, determination brightening her features, her resolve unyielding. "Forgiveness," I murmured, understanding. Dawning but heavy like an impending storm cloud. We had to confront our struggles, not just for ourselves but for the other. To confront the truth behind that haunting vision. But just as hope glimmered at the edges, the chilling laughter returned, echoing wildly through the high shelves. "I will devour every ounce of light you pull into your web, boy. Let her watch as you crumble. Let her see how utterly unworthy you truly are." The shadow bellowed, the air thickening with malice. In that moment, beneath the weight of our torment, a seed of realization germinated within me. This battle spanned more than just our connection. It was a confrontation with the very essence of our individual truths, pain, love, and everything that lay in between. As Rose's resolve ignited the air, I felt the tides of our intertwined histories surging around us, turmoil and celebration echoing in sorrowful symphony. The libraries as a whole felt alive with energy, thousands upon thousands of stories begging to be told. Yet, in understanding our darkness, triumph brought forth a new challenge. A looming figure of uncertainty threatened our connection, gnawing at the seams of hope crafted so carefully. The shadows pressed against our spirit while we tried to set into place our collective defenses, and suddenly, as the shadows stepped forward to envelop us in despair, the pulsing light from the book flickered erratically, casting long, mysterious shapes across the library's expanse. A door swung open ominously in the distance, revealing another abyss hidden amongst the tomes. I realized with horrifying clarity that it was an invitation, a seductive promise steeped in the unknown. "We have to decide," I said, caught between hope and fear, me heart warring with the urgency of the moment. Yet the words felt heavy, as if they were laden with consequence, a precipice to dive into that would either save us or doom us both. With every ounce of strength I had left, I turned towards Rose, her eyes mirroring the weight of our destinies, and I whispered, "Are you ready?" The silence that fell between us was charged with uncertainty, a question unspoken, a declaration lingering on the edge of our existence. In that moment, we stood before the doorway, not only to the unknown but to the truth hidden within us both, and the answer remained just out of reach. The silence in the library hung heavily in the air, a thick mist of anticipation and dread clouding our thoughts. The distant echo of the shadows seemed to fade momentarily, leaving us with just the hum of our breath and the patter of our relentless hearts. I could feel the weight of Rose's gaze pressing into me, and the enormity of my question stretched between us like an unbridgeable chasm. "Ready?" she echoed, her voice less a confirmation and more a challenge. It was as if she and the very essence of the library were pulling me deeper into a current of fate that neither of us could control. I swallowed hard, trying to dispel the anguish gnawing at my insides. What did it truly mean to be ready? To step into that unknown? Yet the fire burning in Rose's eyes sparked a reluctant hope within me, a flicker of belief that we could navigate this storm together, if only we could quell the shadows. "Ready or not, we have to move forward," I finally said, driven not by confidence but by sheer will. The invitation of the door beckoned us like a siren, its pull growing irresistible. Behind it lay answers cloaked in mystery, perhaps even salvation, but also a risk I couldn't quite grasp. As I took a step towards the threshold, Rose's hand found mine, her grip fierce and determined. The warmth of her touch traveled up my arm, igniting embers of courage that chased away the chill creeping into my bones. "Together," she whispered, as if voicing a promise that went beyond mere words into an unbreakable vow. We crossed the threshold together, and the moment we did, the fabric of reality shifted, spiraling around us in a dizzying dance of light and darkness. It felt as if we had plunged into the very heart of the library's narratives, plunging into plots long forgotten and stories yearning to be woven anew. The very essence of the book seemed to pulse, alive with myriad emotions, hopes, and regrets. The world transformed around us, evoking landscapes of our past, the laughter of shared moments, the shadows of sorrow etched in every unspoken thought. I could see glimpses of our struggles projected onto the scrolls that floated in the ethereal space, the joy of our shared laughter as children, and the heartache of miscommunication and distance that followed. But as quickly as those memories appeared, they morphed into something darker, an embodiment of fears swirling into a tempest that mirrored my own shadow. The books around us pressed and flowed, wistful sighs fluttering from their pages, like the breath of forgotten lovers seeking to be remembered. Rose's hand tightened around mine, grounding me as I stumbled through this hall of reflections. "Look," she urged, eyes wide with realization. "Each story here isn't just our past. It's what we choose to carve out for our future." I followed her gaze to a large tome hovering in the air, its gilded pages luminous against the obsidian backdrop. It glowed with an enticing warmth, drawing me in. "Rich with beginnings and endings, a potential for rebirth," I murmured, dissecting the energy that shimmered before us. But the shadows surged again, thrumming with resentment, awakening vengeful echoes of my past failures that clawed at my spirit, the weight of unmade choices, haunting moments of defeat. "You think you can rewrite the narrative?" they taunted, tongues of darkness slithering around Rose and me, threatening to isolate us in our weaknesses. "You'll always return to this circle of despair." The shadow's voice burrowed under my skin, and I winced as shadows intensified, weaving tighter around us, creating a suffocating shroud. The very air felt wrong, as if it were trying to choke the hope flourishing within me. "It might be stronger together, but it only needs one to fall," it sneered. One failure, one misstep, desperation clawed at my throat. "No!" I shouted, launching my voice against the growing cacophony. "The past doesn't dictate who we become. We'll rewrite the script." Well breathed life into the words, and suddenly, as if heeding my call, the tome flickered and began to open, pages blossoming with possibilities. Words glistened, as though eager to escape, yearning to tell new tales woven with love, resilience, and triumph. I felt an unseen force pulsing, urging me to value not just the light, but the shadow as well, to acknowledge the struggles as essential parts of my story. Rose stepped forward, and as she did, the glow intensified, the light coalescing around her until it was palpable. "We can't ignore the past," she declared, her voice steady and unwavering. "But we can choose to learn from it. It makes us whole." With her words, I felt a swell of unity, a momentum building between us as we reached towards the luminous tome. The shadows recoiled, hissing as our resolve strengthened, intensity radiating from our joined hands. Together, our voices coalesced, igniting the air with a brilliance that splintered the looming darkness packing around us. The library shifted around us, forming paths that branched and intertwined according to our burgeoning collective will. And for a moment, we stood suspended in hope, gripping tightly to what we believed to be possible. But as quickly as the calm settled, a loud crash erupted to break in our created momentum. Shadows swelled and writhed, realities colliding, and that single moment of light threatened to flicker away. We were not safe here. Our stand had provoked something ancient and wrathful. In the distance, the library quaked, talons of darkness emerging from the corners not yet seen, summoning an entity that thrummed with the weight of every echo of pain that we had tried to shed. An awful recognition dawned upon me, a revelation so shocking it felt like a punch to the gut. Rose, I breathed, dread coiling in my gut. What if our shadows aren't just remnants of our past? What if they're tied to the very heart of the library's darkness? And before she could respond, a blinding flash erupted, shrieking through the air, hurling us apart and plunging us into a fragmented reality where shadows bared their fangs, their wrath aimed directly at us both. As we hit the cold, stone floor of a darkened chamber, our paths separated, and we were thrust once more against the looming challenge of confronting something greater than ourselves, the very fabric of the stories that might bind us together or tear us apart forever. The question lingered as I frantically searched for her. Would we find the strength to rewrite not just our own endings, but forge a new story for every soul submerged in this creeping darkness? Or would our brightest moment be swallowed whole by shadows designed to consume us both? The cold stone floor pressed painfully against my back, the sharp edge of a broken tile digging into my skin. I pushed myself up, my heart racing as I frantically scanned the depths of the shadowy chamber. "Rose!" My voice trembled, pooling with desperation as it echoed against the high ceilings, swallowed by the oppressive darkness. The air was thick with an otherworldly tension. It clung to my skin, making every shallow breath feel like it might be my last. I rose to my feet, stumbling across the dimly lit chamber, my pulse roaring in my ears. The last moment of light we had conjured together felt like a fever dream, elusive and distant. Now, the shadows loomed large, sneering at me, a menacing presence unfurling with every step I took further into their domain. "Rose!" I called again, desperation threading through my gut. The silence that followed was suffocating, a gaping void that felt alive and hungry. What if she had been dragged deeper into this chaos? What if I had lost her? Suddenly, I heard Ida faint whisper, fluttering like the wings of a trapped bird, barely more than a breath. I turned, squinting against the darkness, and spotted a change in the wall ahead. A wavering shape, like a shadow wrapped in shadows, flickered at the edge of perception. "Rose?" I dared to hope. Taking slow, measured steps toward the flickering light, I felt an inexplicable tug deep within. The shadows pulsed with uncertainty, as if my determination was drawing them back, causing them to twist like smoke. "Am here," the voice responded, trembling and uncertain, but undeniably hers. With every syllable, a thread of warmth ignited in my heart, powering my resolve forward. I reached the source of the light, and it materialized into a small, shimmering doorway, the edges glistening like stars sewn into the very fabric of the wall. Rose stood on the other side, her face pale but fierce, a flame shining through her anxiety. "Thank goodness," I breathed, my hand reaching out instinctively, bridging the widening space between us. But as our fingers grazed the threshold, the shadows surged, retaliating against the light we clung to. Rose cried out, her expression tightening with determination. "Don't let them take you. Remember what we fought for." I hesitated at her words, a flicker of doubt haunting me. Just as I had drawn strength from Rose, a sudden realization snagged my heart like a barbed wire. What if I was indeed the sole weak link in our bond? The very catalyst that would spark devastation? In that moment of doubt, the shadows surged around me, a cyclone of despair unleashed by my wavering will. "You won't stand a chance," they taunted, their voices rising in a cacophony of laughter, a sinister symphony orchestrated to claw at my resolve. But there, in the storm of encroaching darkness, I could see Rose's eyes, shimmering with strength and defiance, a mirror reflecting an unwavering faith I had almost lost sight of. "Together, we're stronger than this," she shouted, her voice slicing through the suffocating chaos like a beacon. The intensity of her conviction ignited something within me, a swell of raw determination that shattered the shackles of doubt. The shadows snarled, recoiling as I pushed forward, bending against the insistent pull of fear. Just as I reached for the door, something unexpected happened. A warmth enveloped me, like a comforting embrace. It pulsed with the collective essence of every decision I had ever made, every moment of vulnerability, every act of love that had shaped me. Suddenly, I realized it wasn't just my doubts or regrets. It was every cherished memory that flooded my heart, a rush of courage tethered to Rose's fierce spirit. "Together," I echoed, as if defying the shadows to refute the power of our connection. The light around me brightened, and I grasped Rose's hand as I stepped through the doorway, feeling it thrum with possibility like the steady beat of a shared heart. We tumbled into a vast, mirror-like chamber that seemed to stretch infinitely in all directions, walls reflecting both of us as if we existed within 1,000 versions. Each reflection displayed moments of our lives, some sweet, some painful, but all undeniably ours, woven into the essence of our individual spirits. I gazed at the many versions of ourselves, each one a branch in the tree of choices we had made together and apart. At the far end, a darker version of Rose stood, a twisted expression of sorrow marking her face, one that embodied all the darkness we had encountered. And beside her, a distorted mirror of myself, etched with every failure and fear I had ever confronted. Yet the moment my eyes met her dark counterpart, something flickered in the depths of that reflection, a longing, a sorrow, an unintended recognition. Before I could question its meaning, the shadows surged again, a tidal wave of rage crashing against us, tethered to this myriad of choices, branching paths weighed down by all unresolved pain. The air crackled with tension, threatening to pull us apart once more. I fought against the grip of despair, gripping Rose's hand tighter. "We won't surrender to them," I vowed, pouring everything I had into my voice. "This is our story. We are not defined by our shadows." Something unimaginable stirred within the darkness. For the briefest moment, it hesitated, as if the shadows themselves feared the strength of our union. But that pause was fleeting, the darkness erupting forward as it attempted to overwhelm us. In that moment of chaos, just as the tide of despair threatened to consume us whole, I felt a hand brush against my shoulder. I turned, startled, and saw a figure emerging from the swirling shadows, a woman cloaked in darkness, yet illuminated with an ethereal light. Her face was strikingly familiar, the contours of kindness etched into her features. "Mother?" The word slipped past my lips, my heart lurching as the memories of her gentle smile and boundless love rushed back, colliding with the present moment. "How is this possible?" The figure nodded, an understanding shimmering in her eyes. "We are woven into this narrative, my child, just as you are woven into the fabric of your choices. Embrace your journey, for you hold the power to transform your legacy." Before I could process her words, shadows twisted and screamed, fueling the tempest brewing in the chamber. The echo of her voice reverberated in my mind like a blessing, igniting a fierce determination anew. This wasn't merely about confronting the darkness. It was about redefining who we were in its presence. As I turned to Rose, the fire in her eyes matched my own. "Together," we whispered, a promise that resonated through the whirlwind. But as we combined our strength to face the onslaught of shadows, the realization hit as might not be a shared fight with just Rose alone. Something sinister stirred in the depths of those shadows, a darker force awaiting our final stand, as the unknown seethed with a potent blend of truth and revelation trapped in the chamber. Would we be able to find our way through this maze of fragmented hearts, or would it finally unravel us, tearing apart the very fabric of love we sought to reclaim? With every ounce of faith tethered between us, I felt the impending clash. The true battle lay ahead, and nothing would be the same again once we faced it. The tensions hung thick in the air, like an impending storm, but amidst the chaos, a sudden calm enveloped us. The shadows blurred and shifted, losing their menacing form in the magic of that recognition. The presence of my mother lingered, a band of warmth tethering me to undeniable truths, tethering me to Rose, who stood beside me, a warrior ready to confront the darkness threatening to consume us. Together, I whispered, making silent promises that echoed through the very essence of the chamber. As the shadowy figures coiled around us, thrumming with desperation, I felt Rose's fingers squeeze tighter around my own. A tether against the dark abyss. It was then that I understood. We weren't fighting mere specters of our past anymore. This was something deeper, something rooted in grief and unhealed wounds that had wanted to rip us apart for far too long. Face it, and let the light in, an unseen presence urged, knowing the power of truth could blossom in the darkest places. Let your bonded souls shine. The once forbidding shadows screamed their fury, yet that scream transformed into a mournful wail, dissipating into threads of shimmering light, a raw anguish released through screams of recognition. Each inch of darkness surrounded us trembled, revealing the memories wedged within, fragments that had led our paths here. Your memories do not own you, Rose shouted, raising her chin defiantly, eyes blazing with truth and fire. We own them. I felt the light of her resolve pour into my veins, igniting a new understanding. In that moment, I grasped the darkness that coiled around us was not only a villain, but a reflection of our unacknowledged fears. I lifted my hand, reaching toward the looming shadows, and Rose mirrored my movement. The warmth emanating from our clasped hands wrapped us like a cocoon, pushing against the encroaching darkness with unyielding force. And just before the shadows could reclaim their grip, I called out, "We love you," as if the words were an incantation. "We acknowledge you." The darkness recoiled, a twisted being suddenly stricken with confusion. Where there had once stood an impending demise now flickered something vulnerable. "You want to fight?" It hissed, but I could hear the hesitation in its voice, tracing the echoes of fears long buried. This was not just a battle. It was a release. "Yes, we fight," I declared, my heart strengthened, anchored by love. Somehow, I understood that true bravery was in acceptance. You may be dark, but you helped shape who we are. We choose to turn pain into power. I felt that power rising, pulsing through our clasped hands, surging within the air like wildfire, illuminating the chamber in a golden glow that engulfed us. Rose beamed, her determination intensifying at my side. Instead of being consumed, we were becoming luminescent beings, fueled by forgiveness and love, our own shadows no longer dictators, but components of our ongoing narrative. The darkness screamed again, shrieking in fury, as the light pressed against it with relentless force. "You think you can erase me? You will always return to hatred." "No!" Rose bellowed, rising to meet its challenge, fire dancing within her eyes. "You will not have power over us. We forgive you. We will not be bound by your chains." With that announcement, the cacophony of shadows faltered, bewilderment shimmering over their forms. It was their turn to quiver under the spotlight of our truth. In our embrace of both light and dark, the wards we had built began to shake violently. Together, we breathed as one, charging into the heart of the dark. As the shadows contorted and shrieked, they melted away each horrifying memory, each painful encounter, repurposing as radiant energy. They fused with our light, our love, crafting threads of resilience that transformed agony into threads of lived truth. The shadows lost their footing, reforming into halos of light, releasing echoes of sorrow that had haunted us. And suddenly, clarity soared through the tumultuous air like embers flying into the night sky. In that radiance, I saw glorious visions of the future, unfurling a beautiful tapestry woven from moments bathed in laughter, vulnerability, and growth. And, amid the soothing glow, I caught a glimpse of the crowd I'd long sought to protect me, mother, my sister, even old friends who had lost their way, their faces shed with vibrant light, united in our shared struggles. As the darkness faded entirely, the library felt alive with the wisdom of every story. It held a weaving of hope and healing, illuminating a pathway to embrace both love and loss, woven together. The fear of the past that had threatened to consume us became the very bricks of our foundation, stronger than any shadow that dared darken our door again. Breathless, I turned to Rose, whose radiant visage somehow glowed even brighter against the shimmering background. "We did it!" I exclaimed, my heart swelling with love and triumph, pulsing with every truth finally revealed. Finally stepping into that light, enveloped by the acceptance of our intertwined pasts, I realized we stood at the birth of new beginnings, reborn from the storms we had each individually faced. As our hands slipped apart, the light shimmered, binding us once more to everything that made us whole. No longer will we run or forget, only embrace the beauty within the battles. Rose smiled, and in her eyes I saw forever. And as the dawn of all our tomorrows broke beyond the horizon, I knew that love tethered in acceptance was a legacy worth forging, resolute and unbreakable. With that final understanding echoing between us, I declared with certainty beyond doubt, we are light. We are love. We rise. In that radiant moment, a timeless feeling gripped me fiercely, a promise fulfilled, our journey weaving further into the depths of the universe, undaunted, unbroken, and forever entwined in the glorious tapestry of existence.